If she's doing this, you're on her mind more than you realize. Psychology tricks. Sometimes the deepest feelings are the ones never spoken. Every man reaches a point where something feels different. The messages slow down, the silence gets longer, and yet, instead of fading, her presence feels stronger in your mind. That's not coincidence, and it's not wishful thinking. Most men misunderstand this phase completely. They assume interest only exists when a woman is visible, expressive, or chasing. If she's not reaching out, they conclude she's forgotten them. But attraction doesn't disappear just because it goes quiet. In fact, that's often when it intensifies. Here's what many men don't realize about female psychology. A woman doesn't always process emotions outwardly. When she pulls back, it's often because she's trying to regain control over feelings that run deeper than she expected. Silence isn't absence, it's internal conflict. When a woman thinks she should be over you, but finds herself replaying conversations, remembering how you made her feel, or sensing your presence without explanation, that's when you're truly on her mind. The distance becomes the space where emotions echo the loudest. Men are trained to watch behavior. Women operate through emotional undercurrents, and when those emotions are triggered by a man, they don't always come out as words or actions. They surface in subtle shifts, energy, hesitation, and unspoken tension. That's the truth most men miss. When a woman can't fully let go, she doesn't announce it. She reveals it quietly, in ways only someone paying attention would notice. 1. She expresses emotion indirectly. She expresses emotion indirectly, and that is where most men miss the signal, because it never shows up as a confession or a dramatic speech. It shows up in subtle shifts. You feel more than you see. Tiny changes in tone, timing, and behavior that look harmless on the surface but carry serious emotional weight underneath. And you must understand this if you want clarity instead of confusion. She won't say, "I miss you," not because she doesn't feel it, but because her mind is negotiating with her heart, and when that happens, emotion leaks out sideways. It shows up when she checks your social media without interacting, when she suddenly mirrors your humor, when she brings up old memories as if they just wandered into her thoughts, when her energy changes around you for no obvious reason. Don't ignore these moments. Be observant. That is where her truth lives. Female psychology works differently than most men expect because women don't attach deeply through logic or declarations. They attach through emotional imprinting. And once a feeling is imprinted, it doesn't fade easily. That is why she may act composed on the outside while experiencing emotional turbulence underneath. She might reply later than usual, then suddenly engage intensely. She might pull back, then lean in unexpectedly. Don't assume inconsistency means disinterest. Be calm. You must realize this is often the sign of someone trying to manage feelings she didn't plan to have. Psychology tricks won't help you if you don't first understand how emotional memory works. A woman doesn't keep thinking about a man because he said the right words or had the right look. She keeps thinking because of how she felt in his presence, how her nervous system responded, how time felt different, how her guard softened without effort. That feeling becomes a reference point, and once it's there, her mind quietly compares every new interaction to it. She may not want to, but the comparison happens anyway. That is why she may seem distant with others or oddly reflective after seeing you. Be steady. Don't chase reactions. Let the contrast speak for you. If she's thinking about you nonstop, it's because you created a feeling she hasn't been able to recreate, not because you tried to impress her, but because you allowed her to feel seen, safe, energized, or understood in a way that lingered. That is how to fall in love really works, and it's rarely loud. It's internal. It's persistent. It's quiet. Female psychology responds to emotional depth, not pressure. And when a woman feels something deeply, she often tries to hide it from herself first. That's why her behavior may include small slips she didn't intend, moments where her attention drifts back to you, questions that seem casual but aren't, reactions that arrive faster than logic can catch them. Don't confront her about it. Don't demand clarity. Be grounded. Let her emotional process unfold naturally. Psychology tricks are not about manipulation, they're about awareness, about recognizing that what looks small on the surface can be an emotional earthquake underneath. When she indirectly expresses emotion, she is protecting herself while still staying connected, testing whether the feeling is safe to hold. You must understand this if you want to maintain attraction without tension. A man who stays centered, observant, and emotionally steady becomes the place her thoughts return to, because he doesn't force her to explain what she hasn't finished understanding herself. That is powerful. That is rare. And that is why she keeps thinking about you. Don't overtalk. Don't overanalyze. Be present. Be consistent. Let the feeling remain intact. In female psychology, the man who doesn't rush the emotion often becomes the one the emotion can't let go of. And that is how to fall in love without ever needing to say it out loud. 2. Emotional imprinting and mental replay. Emotional imprinting is the part most men never see, yet it is the part that quietly decides everything, because if you triggered that emotional blueprint in her, intentionally or not, she will keep circling back to you in her mind like a song she can't stop replaying, a melody that shows up when she's driving, when she's alone at night, when she's laughing with friends and suddenly goes quiet, even when she wants to move on, even when she tells herself she should, even when she looks someone in the eye and says she's done. Don't misunderstand this. Be clear. That is not obsession. That is emotional memory doing its job. A woman's mind replays feelings, not faces, and when a feeling is strong enough, it loops. You must understand this if you want to read the silence correctly, because the signs she's thinking about you are not obvious, not loud, not dramatic, and not designed for attention. They are subtle, instinctive, and deeply human. They live in pauses, delays, small changes in rhythm. She might go quiet, not because she doesn't care, but because the memory is active. She might act composed, because she's managing the replay internally. Don't rush to fill the silence. Don't demand reassurance. Be steady. A high-value man knows that silence is often the loudest confirmation. Emotional imprinting happens when a woman feels something she didn't expect to feel, something that bypassed her logic and landed straight in her nervous system. That could be the way you listened without fixing, the way you held eye contact without pressure, the way you didn't chase her approval, yet still made her feel chosen. That is masculine energy at its most grounded form, calm, present, unforced. You didn't need to perform, you didn't need to impress, you simply showed up aligned, and that is why the replay starts. She doesn't sit there thinking, I miss him. She feels a familiar warmth, a certain steadiness, a comparison she never meant to make. Be aware. This is how you attract women without trying to convince them of anything. The mind circles back to what felt safe and alive at the same time. The reason these signs are easy to miss is because they don't come with announcements. She won't send long messages explaining her inner world. She won't confess the replay. Instead, she may ask casual questions that don't sound casual. She may resurface memories as if they just happened to cross her mind. She may keep tabs from a distance while telling herself it means nothing. Don't confront it. Be observant. You must let the emotional echo do its work. A high-value man doesn't interrupt emotional processing. He allows it. That patience amplifies attraction more than words ever could. Emotional replay is not something she controls. It's something her mind does when a feeling hasn't been replaced. And replacement is rare. That's the part most men don't realize. A woman doesn't move on just because time passes. She moves on when a new emotional experience genuinely outweighs the old one. Until then, the song keeps playing. Masculine energy, when it's calm and self-contained, becomes the standard her mind measures against. That's why she may date others, yet feel disconnected. That's why she may smile, yet feel something missing. Don't compete. Be centered. That is how you stay present in her thoughts, without ever needing to ask. This is also why silence from her doesn't mean absence of feeling. Sometimes it means the feeling is active enough that she doesn't trust herself to express it cleanly. Be patient. You must resist the urge to chase clarity when ambiguity is actually confirmation. The man who understands emotional imprinting understands power without force. He understands that attraction grows in space, not pressure. High-value man energy isn't loud. It doesn't seek validation. It trusts the imprint. And when you live from that place, you naturally attract women who feel before they explain. Emotional replay is her mind trying to make sense of an experience that changed her internal baseline. You didn't just pass through her life, you altered a reference point. That is why the signs are quiet. That is why they're easy to misread. And that is why once you see them, you will never look at her silence the same way again. If this hit home, don't just scroll past it. Drop a comment right now and claim this truth. Silence doesn't mean I'm forgotten. It means I left a mark. Like the video, subscribe for more unshakable psychological insight, and remember this every day. What lingers in the mind is never accidental. 3. Silence as observation, not absence. Silence is not absence, and this is where seasoned men must sharpen their perception, because when a woman becomes emotionally activated by you, her first move is rarely a message or a call. It is attention, it is observation, it is quiet focus and understanding. This changes how you move through modern relationships with confidence and calm. She watches patterns, she studies your rhythm, she notices when you appear and when you disappear. She replays conversations in her mind, not because she is unsure, but because she is measuring meaning. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. So her silence is often full of thought, full of curiosity, full of emotional calculation, not empty space. Men who lack experience panic in silence. They rush, they overinterpret, they try to force clarity, but men guided by Old Stoic wisdom recognize that silence is data. Silence is information. Silence is a signal to remain grounded because attraction often grows quietly before it ever speaks out loud. In today's world of instant replies and constant validation, silence feels uncomfortable, but discomfort is where mastery begins. Epictetus said it plainly. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid, meaning you do not chase reassurance. You let time reveal truth. She does not reach out first because she protects her dignity, she protects her emotional investment, and she observes how you handle uncertainty because your response to silence tells her everything about your inner structure. This is where an iron mind separates itself from anxious reaction because you understand that attraction is not built through pressure. It is built through presence, consistency, and emotional stability. Modern life tempts men to monitor every notification, to analyze every delay. But Stoicism, when moments come when you stop reacting and start leading yourself, when you remain centered, productive, focused on your mission, because confidence is loud even when you say nothing. Remember the words of Seneca, "He who suffers before it is necessary, suffers more than is necessary." And this applies perfectly here, because imagined rejection drains energy that should be invested in growth, health, and purpose. Silence invites you to observe yourself as much as her, to see whether you are driven by fear or guided by discipline. And discipline is attractive because it signals maturity, self-respect, and emotional safety. Women sense when a man is anchored, when his life is full, when his attention is not begging for validation, and that quiet strength activates curiosity far more than constant availability. This is not a game. It is a principle. Old Stoic wisdom teaches us that what you control is your response, your actions, your standards, not someone else's timing. Repeat this until it settles in your bones. Silence is observation. Silence is evaluation. Silence is not rejection. Hold your frame. Live well. Train your body. Sharpen your mind. Build your work. Nurture your values. Because Stoicism win is not about waiting for messages. It is about becoming a man whose life speaks before he does. In modern relationships, clarity comes faster to men who do not chase it, and power comes to those who do not rush it. Develop an iron mind that sees silence as neutral, as space, as possibility, because the man who masters his reactions masters his life, and the man who masters his life becomes unforgettable without trying. 4. Emotional safety and attachment. Emotional safety is the quiet force that rewires attachment, and it's where curiosity turns into focus, and focus slowly turns into something deeper. Because obsession doesn't begin with drama or desire, but with a realization that lands softly and then refuses to leave. She felt safe with you in a way she doesn't feel with most men. Not safe like guarded or sheltered, but safe like understood. Safe like her words didn't need translation. Safe like her pauses were allowed to breathe. Safe like she could be fully present without performing. And when that happens, something subtle clicks inside her mind. A hidden door opens, and she recognizes a version of herself that only shows up around you, which is why this connection lingers long after conversations end and silence begins. Because female psychology doesn't anchor to moments, it anchors to states of being, and you became a state she didn't know she was missing. Don't confuse this with intensity. Be clear about that. This is not about pressure or pursuit. That is noise. This is about resonance, and resonance is what makes her replay small interactions. Not the flashy ones, but the calm ones. The ones where she felt seen without being inspected. Where she could share a thought and not brace for correction. Where she didn't feel rushed to impress or shrink to be accepted. And when a woman experiences that kind of emotional safety, her nervous system remembers it like a favorite song, playing it quietly in the background even when she tries to move on. Because the mind may decide to leave, but the body keeps score. And that is why she doesn't detach cleanly or quickly. That is why distance doesn't erase you. It often sharpens you. And this is one of those psychology tricks most men never learn because it doesn't look like a trick at all. It looks like calm confidence, steady listening, and grounded presence. Be honest with yourself. Most connections fail not because of a lack of attraction, but because of a lack of emotional shelter. And you offered shelter without making promises, which is powerful because you didn't try to fix her or define her. You allowed her to unfold. And in female psychology, that signals trust, not dependency, depth, not pressure. And when she senses that you can hold space without trying to control it, her mind begins to associate you with relief, clarity, and emotional rest. And that association is hard to overwrite, no matter how busy life gets or how many new faces appear, because novelty fades, but safety imprints. Don't chase that imprint. Don't demand it. Be steady. That is the point. Because the more natural it felt, the more permanent it became. And this is where many men misunderstand how to fall in love, thinking it's about saying the right thing at the right time, when in reality it's about being the place her thoughts can land without friction. The place where she doesn't have to defend her feelings or explain her silence. And once a woman experiences that, she doesn't stop thinking about you overnight, even if she decides to step away for practical reasons, even if timing gets messy, even if distance grows. Her mind keeps checking back in, not with longing alone, but with comparison, quietly asking, do I feel as at ease here as I did there? And most of the time, the answer is no, because emotional safety is rare, and rarity creates value without effort. Be aware. This isn't about manipulation. Don't twist it into that. Psychology tricks only work when they are rooted in authenticity, and authenticity is what made her feel understood, not strategy, not performance. And that's why the connection feels heavier in memory than it ever looked from the outside, because what you shared wasn't loud, it was deep. And depth doesn't announce itself, it settles. And once it settles, it's difficult to remove. You must understand this clearly. When she felt seen by you, she felt permission to be whole. And that is addictive in the most human sense of the word. Not unhealthy, not frantic, just deeply anchoring. And this is why, even after she walks away, her thoughts lag behind, replaying moments, conversations, even silences, because those moments represented a version of herself she felt good inhabiting. And losing access to that feels like losing a room in a house she just discovered. And this is how female psychology bonds, not through fireworks alone, but through familiarity that feels safe and expansive at the same time. Be calm about it. Don't rush to label it. Don't corner it with expectations. Let it breathe, because pressure collapses safety, and curiosity strengthens it. And if she returns emotionally before she returns physically, that's not an accident. That's the mind following the body's memory of peace. That is why understanding how to fall in love has less to do with persuasion and more to do with presence. Because presence tells her without words, you are allowed to be here as you are. And that message echoes long after you stop speaking, long after she stops seeing you. And that echo is what keeps you on her mind more than you realize. Because you weren't just a man in her life. You were a feeling, and feelings rooted in emotional safety don't fade. They wait, they resurface, and they quietly redefine what she looks for next, which is why psychology tricks that focus on games miss the point, why female psychology responds to steadiness over spectacle, and why How to Fall in Love begins with one simple truth. Be the place where calm and understanding meet, and let everything else unfold naturally. 5. Behavioral shifts and internal conflict. Behavioral shifts are where the real story lives, not in what she shows you, but in what happens quietly inside her when no one is watching. Her distance means nothing. The silence means nothing. The lack of messages means nothing. Don't mistake absence for indifference. Be sharper than that. What matters is what she's doing when you're not in her line of sight, when the day slows down, when her phone is face down, when her mind drifts without permission. That is where truth shows up. There's a very specific moment in a woman's inner world when you begin to occupy more space than you realize, and it almost never arrives with fireworks or bold gestures. You must understand this clearly. It begins small. A tone you used that felt calm instead of rushed. A word you chose that landed softer than expected. A look you gave that didn't ask for anything but still held attention. Something subtle, almost forgettable to you, but not to her. And that moment lingers, not because it was intense, but because it was unexpected, because it disrupted her emotional rhythm without forcing it. And that disruption is where internal conflict begins. She starts asking herself questions she didn't plan on asking. Why did that stay with me? Why did that feel different? Why am I replaying this now? Don't chase those questions. Be steady. That is the mark of a high-value man, someone who doesn't react to surface behavior, but understands the deeper process unfolding underneath. While many men panic at silence, you must recognize that silence is often when attraction reorganizes itself. This is where masculine energy does its real work, not through pressure, but through grounded presence that doesn't demand immediate proof. She may pull back externally while moving closer internally. That contrast confuses men who only measure interest by visible effort, but attraction doesn't always announce itself. It incubates. And the incubation phase is quiet. That's when she's thinking about you while doing ordinary things, driving, cooking, folding laundry, when your presence sneaks into her mind without invitation. That's when she compares how she felt around you to how she feels now. And that comparison is rarely flattering to the present moment. Don't interrupt that process. Don't over-message. Don't explain yourself. Be consistent in who you are, not in how often you appear. That consistency is how a high-value man attracts women without chasing them, because he doesn't confuse motion with progress. Internal conflict grows when she feels calm around you, but unsettled without you. When she can't logically explain why your absence feels louder than other men's presence. And this has nothing to do with control or performance. Avoid thinking that way. This is about how masculine energy creates emotional gravity through clarity and restraint. You didn't overwhelm her. You didn't impress her loudly. You simply showed up as yourself, grounded, observant, and self-contained. And that allowed her to relax into the moment without guarding it. That relaxation is what her mind returns to later. Be aware of this. Most men try to attract women by adding more words, more attention, more reassurance. You must do the opposite. Do less, but be solid. That is where attraction deepens. When she replays that small moment, she's not replaying you trying. She's replaying how she felt, safe, seen, calm, curious. And once a woman associates you with those internal states, she doesn't need constant reminders of your existence. Her mind does the work for you. That's why distance isn't the enemy, desperation is. Silence isn't the problem, inconsistency is. You must trust the process you set in motion by being authentic and grounded. This is how a high value man operates. He doesn't rush emotional outcomes, he allows them to mature. And maturity is attractive because it signals stability, not control, confidence without noise. When her internal conflict grows, she may test the distance, not to push you away, but to see if the feeling fades. Often, it doesn't. It sharpens. That's when she realizes you're on her mind more than she planned, not because you demanded space there, but because you earned it by not needing it. This is how masculine energy works at its best: quiet, steady, unforced. If you want to attract women, stop measuring success by messages and responses and start understanding psychology tricks that are rooted in patience and self-respect. Be the man who doesn't react emotionally to every shift. Be the man who remains centered regardless of attention. That is not indifference. That is strength expressed calmly. And calm strength is what stays with her long after the moment has passed, long after the conversation ends, long after you're no longer in front of her. Because what she felt wasn't temporary excitement, it was alignment. And alignment doesn't disappear quickly. It waits, it observes, and it quietly pulls her thoughts back to you again and again until she understands why. If this opened your eyes like the video, share it with someone who needs clarity, and subscribe for more psychology-backed insight. To lock this lesson in and interact with the channel, comment this below. It's not the silence that matters, it's the small moments she can't stop replaying. Drop that comment now and let me know you're paying attention. 6. Withdrawal as emotional overwhelm. When a woman withdraws, don't rush to label it as loss of interest, because in many cases it's the opposite, and this is where seasoned understanding separates calm confidence from needless worry. Withdrawal often signals emotional overwhelm, the moment when feelings arrive faster than logic can organize them, when attraction stops being abstract and starts to feel personal, risky, and real. So she watches quietly, checks your social media without leaving a trace, pulls back not to escape you, but to steady herself, because intensity creates pressure, and pressure demands space. This is not mystery, it's psychology, and men who understand it move through relationships with an iron mind, steady and unshaken, while others spiral into overthinking, chasing, and self-doubt. Remember what Marcus Aurelius taught in Old Stoic wisdom. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And here is the instruction. Do not react emotionally to silence. Do not fill the gap with anxious messages. Do not demand reassurance, because calm presence is louder than any words you could send. Restraint signals security, and security is magnetic in modern life, where attention is cheap and emotional stability is rare. When she pulls back because emotions feel too fast, too deep, or too meaningful, your job is not to pull harder, but to hold your ground, to remain consistent, composed, and self-directed, because confidence without pressure gives her room to breathe and room to choose, and choice is where genuine connection grows. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. And what you must be here is centered, purposeful, and unmoved by temporary silence, because a man who can tolerate uncertainty without collapsing into reaction communicates value without speaking." This is Stoicism win in action, applied not as theory, but as lived behavior. In today's world of instant replies and constant validation, withdrawal feels louder than it really is. Yet mature men understand that emotions don't move in straight lines. They surge, retreat, and recalibrate. And when her feelings start to matter, her mind seeks safety, not distance. So she pauses to regain control, to see if the feeling passes, to see if you remain the same man, whether she's close or quiet. That's the test, and passing it requires an iron mind, the ability to stay grounded in your mission, your work, your health, your purpose, because a man absorbed in his own direction radiates stability, and stability calms emotional overwhelm. Seneca warned in Old Stoic wisdom, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." and most men suffer here because they invent rejection where there is reflection, loss where there is processing. But the experienced man reads patterns, not impulses, and understands that attraction mixed with fear creates hesitation, not disappearance. This is where instruction becomes action. Maintain steady communication without escalation. Lead with clarity when you speak. Then return to your life without hovering, because presence without pursuit communicates assurance, and assurance gives her nervous system a signal of safety, not pressure. Modern psychology agrees with this ancient insight. Emotional intensity triggers self-protection, and space allows emotions to settle into clarity. So when you remain calm, you become the calm she subconsciously associates with you. Repeat this truth until it sticks. Withdrawal does not equal indifference. Silence does not equal rejection. And composure always outperforms chasing. This is Stoicism win, not by suppressing emotion, but by mastering response. William James once said, "The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another." And your choice here is simple and strong. Choose patience over panic, structure over speculation, and self-respect over impulsive reassurance seeking. Live your schedule, train your body, advance your goals, show up as planned. Let consistency speak, let silence do its work. This is old Stoic wisdom applied to dating in a modern world, where men who remain centered win quietly and reliably. And when her emotions settle, when curiosity outweighs fear, when safety replaces overwhelm, she returns not because you chased, but because you didn't need to, because the man who stood firm without pressure demonstrated leadership of self, and self-leadership is always attractive. Internalize this, practice it, let it guide you. Build the iron mind that observes, understands, and acts with precision. This is Stoicism win at its most practical. Calm is not passive. Calm is power. 7. Curiosity, comparison, and emotional gravity. Here's the truth most men don't hear often enough, and you must listen closely, because when a woman has you on her mind more than she realizes, the signs are subtle, psychological, and quietly powerful, not loud or dramatic. And the first signal, the deepest one, is curiosity. Because when a woman is emotionally invested, her curiosity doesn't shout. It leans in, it watches, it notices, it remembers. She starts caring about the small details of your life, not because she's searching for control or reassurance, but because her mind has made you relevant, meaningful, emotionally weighted. She wonders how your day went, what shaped your opinions, why you smile a certain way, what made you who you are. And that kind of curiosity is not forced. It is gravity. It happens when her inner world has made space for you. So don't ignore this. Don't dismiss it as friendliness. Be aware. Because curiosity is one of the most overlooked psychology tricks in female psychology, and it often signals the early stages of how to fall in love without either person saying a word. And then something even more telling begins to happen: comparison. Quiet comparison. Not spoken aloud, not calculated, but automatic. Because once her mind has emotionally bookmarked you, every other man she encounters is unconsciously measured against the way you make her feel. Not your looks, not your status, not your achievements, but the emotional resonance you create, the calm you bring, the interest you spark, the way conversations flow or linger. And this isn't something she decides to do. It's something her mind does for her. That is how emotional attachment forms. That is how attraction deepens. And you must understand this clearly, because comparison doesn't mean dissatisfaction with others. It means you have become a reference point. And in female psychology, becoming the reference point is one of the strongest indicators that you matter far more than you think. So don't rush it. Don't pressure it. Don't demand clarity. Be steady. Because emotional gravity grows when it is not forced. And then come the emotional triggers, the moments that reveal everything. Because when a song reminds her of you and her mood shifts instantly, when a scent pulls her back into a memory with you, when a place suddenly feels warmer or heavier because you were once there together, that is not coincidence. That is emotional encoding. Her mind has linked you to feeling, and feeling is the doorway to attachment. So be aware of this, because these triggers don't form from surface-level interaction. They form when someone has quietly integrated you into their emotional world. And that is why she may go silent at times. Not because interest has faded, but because her emotions are processing, integrating, settling. And you must not panic during these moments. Don't chase. Don't over-explain. Don't seek constant validation. Be grounded. Be present. Be consistent. Because consistency is one of the most underrated psychology tricks when it comes to female psychology. It creates safety. And safety is essential in how to fall in love in a real, lasting way. And here's the part many men misunderstand. Curiosity, comparison, and emotional triggers don't appear together by accident. They are stages, signals that build on one another. Curiosity opens the door. Comparison anchors your position. And emotional triggers seal the bond. And none of this requires grand gestures, dramatic words, or constant presence. It requires emotional clarity, self-respect, and the ability to let connection breathe. So don't try to perform, don't try to impress, be authentic, be attentive, be emotionally available without being overwhelming. That is the balance. And if you notice that she asks thoughtful questions, references past conversations, reacts emotionally to things connected to you, or subtly brings you into unrelated topics, don't ignore it. Don't downplay it. Acknowledge it internally. Stay composed, because attraction deepens when it feels safe and unpressured. And remember this clearly: love does not begin with obsession. It begins with attention, with curiosity that feels natural, with emotional echoes that linger, and with a mind that keeps returning to the same person without effort. That is the quiet power of female psychology. That is how to fall in love without chasing it. And that is why the strongest psychology tricks are not tricks at all. They are patterns of emotional truth. So be patient, be aware, be grounded, and let emotional gravity do the work for you. If this resonates with you, take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs this insight. Subscribe to the channel for more psychology-based wisdom about attraction, confidence, and self-mastery. Comment to remember: I leave a deep emotional impression without trying. Drop this affirmation in the comments to anchor this mindset. Strengthen your confidence and interact with the channel. 8. Resistance, jealousy, and vulnerability. She tells herself she's over you. She tells herself she shouldn't care. She tells herself it's time to move on. And she repeats these thoughts not because they are true, but because she hopes repetition will make them real. That is how resistance begins. Not with confidence, but with effort. Because when a woman is truly done, she doesn't need to convince herself. She simply feels calm. She feels neutral. There is no internal argument. So when she fights her thoughts, when she keeps correcting her own feelings, that resistance is not strength. That resistance is proof. The harder she tries to push you out of her mind, the louder you become inside it. Thoughts don't grow stronger unless they matter. Emotions don't fight back unless they are attached. That is psychology, not poetry. Don't ignore this. Be observant, because resistance is often the first quiet signal that you are still deeply present in her emotional world, even when she tells herself you shouldn't be. And here's the part many men misunderstand. Resistance doesn't look like longing. It looks like control. It looks like distance. It looks like restraint. She may speak less. She may act composed. She may appear unaffected. But internally, her mind keeps circling back, replaying moments, conversations, expressions, tones. That mental loop is not accidental. That is emotional attachment trying to reassert itself. Don't mistake silence for indifference. Don't confuse restraint with disinterest. Be calm, be steady, because when a woman resists her feelings, she is often closer to vulnerability than she wants to admit. That is how emotional tension builds. And tension, when left unforced, creates depth. Now let's talk about jealousy, because this is where truth leaks through the cracks. One of the strongest, most undeniable signs that you are on her mind is when she becomes subtly protective of your attention. She won't announce it. She won't claim it. She won't label it. But she will react, Maybe her tone changes when another woman enters the conversation. Maybe she asks casual questions that aren't casual at all. Maybe she goes quiet when she thinks someone else has your focus. These reactions are not strategic, they are instinctive. That is important, because instincts reveal what logic tries to hide. Don't test her, don't provoke her, just notice. Because when a woman guards your attention, even silently, it means she has already assigned value to it. Jealousy in this form isn't loud or dramatic. It's refined. It's controlled. It's subtle. It shows up as curiosity disguised as indifference, as concern disguised as humor, as distance disguised as dignity. And that is exactly why it matters, because people don't protect what they don't care about. They don't react to what feels irrelevant. So when she feels a slight emotional shift at the thought of another woman having your interest, that is not insecurity. That is investment. That is her emotional mind saying, "This matters more than I expected. Be aware of this," because awareness, not reaction, is what separates a grounded man from an anxious one. And this is where the idea of the high-value man comes into play. A high-value man doesn't chase reactions. He doesn't feed on validation. He doesn't attempt to control emotions. He simply remains consistent, present, self-directed. When you stay centered, when you don't over-explain, when you don't compete for attention, you naturally attract women who feel emotionally safe around you. That safety creates attachment, and attachment, when unspoken, often reveals itself as jealousy, not because she wants to control you, but because she doesn't want to lose the emotional connection she feels forming. That is a crucial distinction. Be grounded, be calm. That is masculine energy at its most effective, not forceful, not performative, simply steady. Now let's move deeper, because vulnerability is where everything converges. Resistance and jealousy are defenses. Vulnerability is what leaks through when those defenses slip. You may notice it in brief moments, a soft admission, a nostalgic comment, a question that feels more personal than intended. These moments don't last long. She may pull back immediately. She may change the subject. She may regain composure. But don't miss it, because vulnerability doesn't appear unless trust is present. And trust doesn't appear unless emotional connection already exists. That is the sequence. You must understand this, because vulnerability is not a performance. It is a reflex. It happens when someone feels emotionally safe enough to let a thought escape before logic can stop it. And here's the paradox. The more she tries to protect herself from feeling too much, the more these vulnerable moments stand out. They are unplanned, unpolished, honest. And honesty, even when brief, carries weight. Don't interrogate it, don't cling to it, let it pass naturally. Because pressure kills vulnerability, but calm presence allows it to return. Be patient, be receptive. This is how you attract women without chasing them. This is how masculine energy works when it is aligned, not exaggerated. Now understand something critical. Resistance, jealousy, and vulnerability do not appear separately. They are connected. Resistance is the mind saying no. Jealousy is the emotion saying maybe. Vulnerability is the heart saying yes. These are stages, not contradictions. And when you see all three, even in small doses, it means she is internally negotiating her feelings for you. That negotiation takes time. It takes emotional safety, and it requires you to remain centered. Don't rush her process. Don't demand clarity. Don't push for labels. Be stable, because stability is magnetic. That is how you attract women who are emotionally mature and self-aware. This is also where many men sabotage themselves. They sense the tension, they feel the pull, and they react too quickly. They overmessage, they seek reassurance, they attempt to lock things down. Don't do that. You must resist the urge to resolve emotional tension prematurely. Tension is not a problem. Tension is information. It means something is forming, and formation takes space. Be confident enough to allow uncertainty. That confidence is what defines a high-value man. Not control, not pressure, but self-trust. And let's be clear, masculine energy is not about being cold or distant. It is about being grounded. It is about knowing who you are without needing constant reflection from someone else. When you live from that place, you naturally attract women who feel safe exploring their emotions around you. Safety is the foundation, not excitement alone, not charm alone. Safety combined with presence creates depth, and depth creates attachment. Now look at her behavior again through this lens. If she resists her feelings, it's because they are strong. If she reacts to perceived competition, it's because your attention holds weight. If she shows vulnerability, even briefly, it's because she trusts you more than she planned to. These are not accidents. These are signals, quiet ones, but powerful. And you must respond not with action, but with composure. Be consistent. Be self-directed. Be patient. That is how you attract women who are emotionally invested without ever needing to convince them. That is how you embody masculine energy without forcing it. That is how a high-value man moves through emotional dynamics with clarity and confidence. And remember this, when a woman is truly indifferent, there is no resistance. There is no jealousy. There is no vulnerability. There is only absence. So if you see these signs, even subtly, understand their meaning. Don't inflate them. Don't chase them. Just remain who you are. Because emotional gravity doesn't respond to effort. It responds to presence. That is the truth most men overlook. And once you understand it, you stop trying to attract women. You simply allow connection to unfold. Hey, thanks for staying with me till the end. Let me leave you with something that longnay. If you recognize these signs, don't rush, don't push, and don't overthink. When someone's emotions are already ahead of their logic, the worst thing you can do is force an outcome. Stay grounded, stay consistent, let your actions stay calm and clear. That's what keeps emotional gravity working in your favor. Remember, real connection isn't built by chasing or proving. It's built when you respect the space, value yourself, and let emotions grow naturally. If she's truly thinking about you, she'll move closer in her own time. Now I'm curious, which sign in this video hit you the hardest? And do you feel deep down that she's been thinking about you too? Drop your answer in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might need to hear this today.